scrims, they're making their return to the top of the leaderboards. Numudan is on the grind. He's now ranked 44th in the world. It's been a while since we've seen them. Most of you might recall Numudan, maybe a familiar face for those that really followed the Road to Red Bull Wall closely, especially. The guy came out of nowhere. He's surprised in a few rounds, taken down some very well-known players, and got a lot of praise, actually. I think Beastie was one of the players that was regularly saying, you know, this kid's pretty good. I remember him from StarCraft, and he seems to have some potential. It's just a case of whether he's able to find the time to commit. Well, he's at least going to find a little bit of time to commit to scrims, because him and Beastie, this was, I think, on Monday, they were going at it, checking out the custom maps for EGC, right? Like, we've got similar maps. I think we've added one new this round for round 3, which is Baltic. And, of course, the round 3 theme is that you cannot pick the 4 most popular civs on each map, which is why you're going to see a lot of variance here, right? We come to Rocky Canyon. I feel like Rocky Canyon has traditionally been dominated, at least in the tournament so far, by what, like English comes out a lot. We've seen a lot of the Ottomans, especially. I think some people experimented with Chinese, especially with the Chuge New only rush. Even the Delhi with these sacred sites. Well, all those options are gone from the table. So we get into less expected ones. Things like the Mongols from Numudan, which has kind of become his signature civ. I remember last year this was the civ that he was grinding out on, and he was impressing quite quickly. And then on the other side, another signature civ. Something I think we've come to relate to him by now. I believe Beastie still tries to, you know, maintain that. I think for a while he was maintaining that this wasn't his main civ, and then when I talked to him Red Bull Warlaw, he's like, yeah, I think it might be HRE. Other people were thinking it might be Chinese, but I think he's kind of consolidated his power within the Holy Roman Empire at this stage. It'd be fair to say that Beastie might be, I want to say, probably top 2 on HRE. I think there's an argument to be made for probably Vortex is another one that comes to mind. I think Vortex has some really impressive plays, and he's definitely demonstrated that in Golden League 2 so far, especially even up against Beastie. But something that you would see out of Vortex on that list, you will never see out of Beastie. Mindwork Palace choice. He's always going to go for the Ark and Chapel. We know this. Beastie, you know, even after the buffs changed, the alterations, the problem was with all those upsides they brought with the Mindwork Palace, with the quicker research speed, the cheaper techs in that Blacksmiths, it was all kind of shadowed by the reality that this Ark and Chapel is still a glorious drop-off point that buffs your entire eco early on. And just a reminder for those that have been watching recently, we are back to a normie start situation, right? Like, we're not getting the 12 villager frenzy start anymore. I do kind of miss it. I think it was really a good positive change for the competitive landscape. It really spun things up, brought out new strategies, and left a lot to be re-explored. I'm curious to know how many people want to see that again, actually, in the future. And something that we are going to see out of Beastie, as you can see by how hard he is on the stone, is a secondary TC. And Numudan, he scouted this out early. He went for that standardized opening for the Mongols going into the Spearman. He's already in position to try and block this out, and this could be a thorn in Beastie's side. He might be forced to, you know, pull villagers to try and do something here. Numudan will just push that prelate away. Shivs are going to come out from the villagers. It's only 2 spearmen so far, and I love the patience out of Beastie. Remember, these outposts, they don't get built quickly. So he doesn't feel overburdened to rush it down. He doesn't feel like he needs to rush the villager either. Numudan, if he can't actually snipe out this prelate, this damage is superfluous. It doesn't feel like it really does anything. Now the Ark and Chapel already up. This is problematic. Numudan, he's even building additional spears, and the spears that he currently have, I don't know if they're getting the value they're looking for. In fact, the Khan didn't change target. The Spearman should be able to die. Beastie, he was on the straggler tree, so he couldn't garrison quick enough to save a life there. So Numudan's got to be somewhat content with getting 1 villager, but he really needs to get this outpost up to block out the efficiency from the Arkin. Remember, Beastie needs that efficiency because he needs to quickly get into the wood required for a second TC. That Beastie might just be forced to go for the whole of Molotovs again. Looks like that is going to be the case. Understandable, right? In this situation, you can't allow your opponent to just get this outpost up. It would require you to go into military buildings to protect yourself as well. Beastie, even on point with the micro, pulling away the injured villager to waste time. Oh, but the Spearman! That is so frustrating. The calm 1 damage, plus the fact that Dark Age Spearmen now these days do 7 damage as opposed to the old 6. Really was the difference maker there. He does at least stop the outpost. Still a frustrating position for an HRE player to find themselves in, right? Like, you now lost 2 villages. That's more than 2 villages. That's 2.8 villages because of the 40% efficiency loss per villi. But we have to remember what the build is that BC's doing here. Losing 2, maybe 3 villages isn't going to end his game because his intent is to go for a multi-TC opening. He did, however, get reasonably delayed. It's curious, though, in Numudan's mind, whether he felt like he got enough value out of this, though, right? Like, he's trailing in the tech up. He killed 2 villages, but he idled his own for a very long time. It kind of feels like you're dead in a different way there, right? And then behind that, you've already revealed your hand into racks and following up with stables as well. You know, this doesn't really give him any parking potential, I think, is one of the big issues for Numudan. Sometimes you might see like an archery range play, get Magadai maybe, or just the 1 or 2 archers, and you harass this eco line. But he's not going to have that option. He's going to have to hard dive underneath TCs on multiple locations. And the reason why I think maybe archer play makes more sense than horseman is it gives you a potential timing going into like blacksmith ramps. That is a very hard timing to hit admittedly against the HRE because they have the emergency repairs. But it does feel like it's going to be difficult for him to extract value with Spear's horses, especially with how delayed it is. He does at least read the map perfectly here though. Numudan will move out the spears. The problem is with just 2 of them. Yeah, you can see the problem he has. He could just get pinched if he's not careful. I love that, Beastie. Just kind of optimizing. You pull a few villagers out to clap back. That's absolutely fine in the situation, right? Because you're only losing 25% build speed per villi. I think he's actually done enough. The horsemen are on the way, but it looks like it's going to be too late. So Beastie has the right read, is also going in for the racks, understands that the follow-up to this has to be something fast if the pressure wants to be maintained. Problem is with that build speed, it can be a worse time for Numudan. Town center up, immediate garrison, and might even lose one of the horsemen for his trouble. That's a stinger. So you made a double horseman investment, but you're too late now. You did at least force a racks play out of Beastie. The question now is whether Numudan wants to continue with this, right? Like continue this story of aggression. I think he's kind of got map control freely because it's HRE, so he's already out in the deer. Numudan's best play in this situation is probably just to go fast castle. You can't really dent this base, right? The HRE is one of the hardest to ram rush in the game because they have the emergency repairs. And then on top of that, you can't really play multi-TC from this far behind. Like, you knew your opponent was doing this very early on. If you want to mirror TC, you would have done it immediately. So instead, just try to go up, get the premium units. One problem he's going to have is he's going to want to open Lancers, and he's kind of forced himself now to when he goes Horseman like this. But Beastie's already prepped the counter with the racks, right? So he's going to have Spearmen to buff that away. It's going to be very difficult for Numudan to find immediate value out of his tech up. And the upside for him, of course, is the fact that being up against the HRE, you know your tech up is going to be a lot quicker than they go for this 2TC build. Beastie even setting up some outposts. So want some early kind of alarm bells going off. Also nice fun garrison points for the impeding cavalry that's going to be coming his way. I wonder what Beastie's goal is in the mid-game here. When you go double TC like this, usually you kind of get this freedom to, by the time you reach Castle Age, you can already have an extra 2 or 3 prelates, so you can kind of flood the field. The problem is, like, when you know the Mongol player has to now go Castle Age, you probably can't just spam prelates and feel good about it. So I'm expecting Beastie to just non-stop push out villages instead, and then just rush up the resources for Castle Age himself. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes this is the way to go. I think if you have got map control to a degree, or rather your opponent doesn't have map control themselves, it's quite nice to get 1 or 2 additional prelates, because on these deer, the buff rate is going to be insane, and then afterwards you can just shuffle out the nearby relics, right? So it essentially guarantees you get 2 or 3 relics in the first minute of Castle Age. Now, Numudan should be somewhat happy with the fact he forced this full Spearman investment from Beastie. That did delay his timing a reasonable amount, right? That's an investment of 320 resources. But I don't really feel like he done enough damage with this play. Like, going the double horseman really didn't pay off here. It's unfortunate for him, right? Like, you see his idea around the timing, but Beastie's read was perfect. Like, he pulled a lot of villages with this secondary TC. He wasn't insanely greedy like we sometimes see out of HRE players. It's kind of crazy. It's unfortunate for Numudan because there are plenty of HRE players that go for that second TC, and they'll invest less villages to get it up. So now that Numudan has somewhat been red, can he do something unexpected? We should be seeing Lancers being pumped. They are on the way. And we are going to get the expected prayer tent follow-up as well. Makes a lot of sense, right? This is one of the civs that you can deny a lot of equity from. You know with a double TC build, BC's likely outcome is a Regnit's Cathedral play, which means if you can actually yoink away 2 of the relics before he gets up, you're going to be smiling. And he has got the double Shaman production coming, so that might be the case. Problem is, I'm just looking at the lay of the land. Relic placement, I mean, one of them is more or less guaranteed for BC. It feels almost impossible to stop this one from being gathered. I love the outpost pull from Numudan. Just try to block this out. The problem is like the outpost timing. You know, if there was a rush of maybe 1 or 2 spearmen out there, it could stop it. But BC, for the time being, with his lack of vision, he doesn't want to come out of the base. You can see, it's just his scout giving info elsewhere. Instead, he's playing that full turtle mode that we know he loves to do, right? You know, Beastie, he likes to be like, hey, I don't want this, like, you know, this kind of turtley, slow, late game, let's play it situation. But people force me to it. And I love hearing that from him because, you know, you can just imagine the creeping smile on his face as he says it, as if he isn't happy as Larry to be in that kind of situation as well. Especially with a civ like the HRE. Relics are starting to be picked up by Numudan. Now, he has already got 3 Shamans, so this is an opportunity to take 3 relics if he's fast about it. And we are going to see the Spearman move, but this is what I was talking about, like Beastie, because he's playing defensive with a lack of vision. He played kind of very reluctant here. He's not however hardened Spearman. They should be upgraded soon, especially considering he's got 10 of them. Problem is, if the Shaman just wall lulls here, he can just idle you out and try to back away. Looks like the Lancers are nowhere nearby, so Numudan doesn't actually have a good choice here. That's unfortunate for him. If he forced the wall lull straight away, I think the Lancers arrive in time to turn this fight. But looks like Numudan was caught not looking, and Beastie will reap the rewards. So Beastie, we're up to 5 prelates at the stage. This is pretty cool in conjunction with the Spearmen on the go and the small masses, right? Like, I think when you have this many Spearmen, you can kind of like stop and heal on the way to these locations, which is pretty handy. Just sustains your control against these men-at-arms Lancer pushes, right? Like, men-at-arms, sure, they're not countered by the spears, but these men-at-arms aren't going to kill you quickly. The Lancers are the problem, but the Lancers do sneak in. So it will stop him from safely retrieving the 2nd relic. However, on the other side of the map, oh, Beastie, buddy. I believe there is a slight yoinking going on here. Numudan is hoovering up everything he can find. These relics, where is he running these? Oh no, Numudan. Okay, he realized. It looked like he had a select all situation that happened there because he was looking to attack on the front side and get his units together. But I actually think Beastie attacking with the scout signaled to him that that was even happening. Now Beastie, now this is annoying. The only play he has to get these relics back is to torch down this prayer tent. And that's difficult, right? Because a prayer tent can pack up and move away. So even if he does substantial damage, Numudan might just retreat to the safety of the TC. And diving with, what, 10? Make that 8 Spearmen. It's not going to achieve much here. Lancers on the backside still being a little bit of a nuisance, and looks like Numudan is going to be blocked on returning the 3rd relic, or is he? Numudan, if he continued to micro, he actually would have saved him there. This is a moment where BC should just tank underneath the TC so the prelate can pick it up. Well, back at home, looks like the men-at-arms defense is starting to work out, so the Lancers are being pushed back, and the farms are being set up. So Beastie, this kind of light aggression into Numudan's base is now going to slow things down in a beneficial way for him. You can see he's stockpiling a lot of wood. His intent is to transition full farms. And if he keeps the pressure on the side of the map, he gets it for free. All he needs to do is just waste time as he tries to get away, but unfortunately he wasn't able to pick up that relic. I think he got a body blocked to a certain degree by his own spearman, so we'll be cleaned up here. Still, it is going to be 2 to the 3 relics, right? So still an advantage in terms of the raw overall number for the HRE. Especially if he gets more behind this. And I believe, yeah, we have got devoutness coming in. Makes a lot of sense when you want to layer farms this fast. Means that the point of resource return is reached even quicker. right? Because usually the argument is like, oh, you gather wood 40% faster, you gather food 40% faster. You know, the point of a return on investment is much quicker. The cool thing about having devoutness is this isn't just going to impact one thing, like if you went for fertilization wood or horticulture, right? It's going to impact both of them. So it's essentially you're adding an extra 10% on the wood, 10% on the food. Makes it a very, very quick return on investment. Like, I'd actually have to check the numbers. I haven't done the raw calculus before, but just by the fact that I'm telling you, it's like, it's not even just 50, it's like 75% quicker than any other Civ, basic Civ. It makes sense when you think about it that way, why we see the HRE rush into a farm transition around Arkan so often. Did say a secondary TC drop from Numudan. We didn't talk about this, right? This is what was guarded near the relic. It's not a bad idea, but you have to remember, like, BC is already a mile ahead, and he has a more efficient economy. So Numudan's goal with these plays, his late plays, it was meant to be into the prayer tent priority just to get rid of the relic factor, so that then he could guarantee that although the HRE had a better gathering rate on certain resources, they didn't have infinite gold. So Numudan's goal was, by taking those relics away, to guarantee that BC's issue was going to be a lack of resources long-term. Problem is, when he still gets his hand on 2, I think he's going to be okay, especially if he now secures south side, because I'm looking at the map, and we have plenty of gold veins down here. The long wall is coming in on the eastern flank, and this is because BC's running a static comp, so spearmen, men-at-arms, this type of thing. He just wants to fully focus on one area. He doesn't want to do this dance around his own economy. Love the Lansk as well. Just guarantees that the men-at-arms play from Numudan now just becomes worthless. Like, it's kind of weird how many of these men-at-arms Numudan already built. It's one of those things where you just kind of get, to a certain degree, baited into it, right? Like, you began producing them, you got some results out of them, they feel good, you keep doing it. And it's not the end of the world as long as he stops around now, because, like, you haven't paid for upgrades in these men-at-arms at all. It's just men-at-arms. But if you continue down this path... God, I'm about to start that speech to Anakin. I just realized those words. If you continue down this path, I just don't think I could follow along with anymore, all right? You'll lose to the dark side that is the HRE Maces, which he has already got. He's on the way. Numudan. Well, we are getting into a heavy comp of crossbows here. Spearmen are going to raid on the backside, and I do see an issue here now for Numudan. A lack of wood. He's going to need to find new sources as this goes on, especially considering that, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing him consider getting into some wood-based units, whether it's like a few archers to just kind of pump up the crossbow numbers, or whether it's maybe going into something like horsemen to a certain degree would be useful here. Just trying to, like, snipe reinforcements. I'm just thinking, like, he needs a cavalry element, because the way I see BC playing this out now is he probably just starts death pushing eventually and trickles in new troops, right? So if you can have an army that can cut off reinforcements, you have a chance of holding. But the way this is going, I think BC's going to crack Imperial Age in the next probably 30 seconds. He'll start the tech up. And Numudan isn't positioned to punish this at all. It's weird, Numudan, because of those small raids on the flanks with the spearmen, he got super paranoid and pulled all the way back. This is a dangerous thing to do as the Mongols, because your goal is to be the aggressor, right? You have to be in people's faces constantly, because you can't wall yourself in. You can't be safe at home. Now, things that are happening in the other home, it is going to be the Palace of Swabia. 35 people are interested in booking a night in the Love Hotel, and it's not going to take long for it to go up. Yep, that had multiple meanings, I know, but it's on the line. Palace of Swabia complete. Wall-ins continue, this time with stone walls. BC's parked, and Numudan looks a bit lost here. All right, resource bank not good enough to catch up on a tech up. Army mass isn't really bigger, all right? It's like 2 units larger. And BC is now going in for the late game play. Mass horseman. He saw the crossbow investment. He's a step ahead, and this is why I was hoping Numudan would get into some kind of like wood element, right? Obviously, the archers would have been counted more by this, but spearmen come to mind now that you need. Spearmen that you never want to go into by default against the HRE, because you know they've got these Lansk. Small walls go up again. That's just going to block entry points. Looks like it's going to be a slow siege approach for Numudan. Not a good feeling here. Going into traction trebuchets up against Imperial Age HRE. Multiple reasons for that, by the way. For one, E-repairs slows down the process immensely. 2, culverins. Culverins have 12 tower range, folks. You can even bring the Springles up to that as well, right? These traction trebs, only 14 tower range. It's very easy to just put them a little bit too close to the action and lose them instantly. Wait, it's going to be an outpost drop from Numudan. Just try to keep the Yam intensifying. He has an opportunity to chop through the wood line here, but BC switched on and a step ahead. He's already going to get the immovable defense. Keep is going up. Numudan, he sees it. He lacks the ability to get in range quick enough to stop it. Trebs are finally hitting it, but too little, too late. Break through the wall, in through the choke point. But if Lance get on top of you here, they can just massacre. You can see Numudan, the hesitation, just peels back the men-at-arms. Great micro there. But Lance just aren't dying quick enough. Look at this. Double melee armor, one range, 80 health. They're flourishing in these fights. And Horseman, the goal of this isn't to just kill Numudan, right? It's to slow down the approach. Keep him in his place. Behind this, really what is Numudan bringing? He's trying to send Spearman across to the front side now, but we're seeing bombards being added in by Beastie and what will feel like unlimited men-at-arms in Horseman. It's just a very simple, kind of standardized answer at the HRE at this stage. You reach your late game like this, all of a sudden your opponent has to end fast. Numudan is trying to take a different approach though. You can see he's trying to give himself a ceiling. Slowly saving up for that Imperial Age, but it's just not easily done in this situation. You know that BC's eco is fully online. His only goal now is to reach pop cap. You don't want to be outnumbered when you're on the assault like this. Schwabia being assaulted. Choke points can be beneficial for Numudan as long as the cleavers aren't at the front side. If the Lanks get in, it means that your range comp, it doesn't matter that you have range advantage because your front line just dies too fast. And I feel like that's what's happening here. Numudan about to go down to single digits men-at-arms. At this stage, the crossbows are just going to overwhelm him. He needs to get the hell out of dodge. So Spearman on the way to assist, but it's really not the Horseman that's the problem here. It's the Lanks that are kind of layered in. The Spearman push that's now coming out. It's brain dead, but so effective. Now, and we've been talking on the broadcast about how absurd Spearman look at the moment. And you can see, like, it's an element that is proving frustrating in this combo. If this was just men-at-arms and Langs, it maybe gets cleaned up, reset. But Spearman just, you know, very cost-efficient, very tanky, fast-moving unit, charges for a very long time. I mean, I don't really know what more you want from this unit. I guess if you're a Marlian player, you want it to hold javelins, but let's not ask for too much. So after all is said and done, Siege got cleaned up. CTQ is now online. This is the problem you now have if you're Numudan. You don't have quick breach, and BC can keep you back with wooden walls and snipe you down with bombards. Right? This is like sniper elite. We're not Age of Empires anymore. We're sniper rifling. Numudan, he hasn't gone up for Imp yet. I'm a bit worried the way he's sitting on this. I mean, he's not directly just going for the unit count, right? Like he's, I don't want to say indecisive, but like he's sitting on a lot of resources and simply not banking it. That hurts. That hurts so much. The one he didn't have the tech up underway, now he has to rush it with 54 villagers. One sheep to slay them all. Seems true, right? That's the sheep's vengeance there. Preventing the Mongols from reaching Imperial Age quickly. But with 54, he'll still make it pretty damn quick. However, he has forfeited some map control, and now Beastie, aware of it, will look to move out. Bombards on the way with their retinue. And Eco just looking substantially stronger for the HRE here. I mean, you're seeing the count. Look at the difference. 146 to 91. So what's the play here for Numudan? I mean, White Stupa's online. He's got, the problem is he's got all this gold, but he's not, like, he hasn't got the food additional to get the upgrades as well. Like, you're seeing him kind of struggle here. Remember, he's not a pop cap, so if he decides to get his elite tech upgrades too quickly here, he'll just lose the main fight. Might even have to contemplate trading some gold. Like, he has got plenty of it. Step readout, plus the free relics. Yeah, it definitely adds up. Realistically, he needs to get his own siege mixed in. And yeah, you can see the siege workshop now being dropped. I mean, you could think about going into Springles to counter out the bombards. Now, I don't mind the idea of, like, 1 or 2 mangonels, but the problem is, like, you're up against horsemen as well. And although BC hasn't got many, if we check the vision, we can see we're the only ones that know that. Back to the center with those horsemen. Everything in the mosh bit. Outpost being dragged down. Good priority by Beastie, just ensuring that they haven't got that movement speed to kind of dance the fight as easily. When the step read out on the front side like this, you see he targets it down because the gold is what will keep the Mongols alive. Great ID by Beastie. And a lack of gold access. Look what's happened on the flanks. Beastie's blocked him out. He was already checking the backside, and he constantly patrols it. So even though this defense works for Numudan, he now has a bigger problem. He doesn't have gold access. At least keep the step readout alive, but 59 gold in a vein and nowhere to send this refresh step readout is my bigger concern. And please, for the come on. Can we unpack it, please? Oh boy. That's going to be pricey for a lad who's already munching on finite amounts of wood. PC. Oh, PC's like just making up for round 1's issues, right? Weren't allowed to build walls then. Round 2 felt too aggro to be able to get up these walls freely, but round 3, we're back to what we know so well. The tried and true AoE fall. Walls are going to be struggle though. Looks like he's getting cancelled for the moment. As BC was a little bit slow, a little bit lethargic in rebooming the army. They're on the way now. Just horsemen, men at arms, a few lanks mixed in as well. You can't help but feel like even when Numudan's winning these fights in this area, like what is he actually achieving from this? Look on the other side, a few horsemen just harassing the eco. The keeps up on the flanks to deny equity everywhere that Numudan needs it. I mean, this is the problem. BC has essentially given Numudan a world in which he has hope, right? In the center. And he's fixated upon it. But by fixating upon it, he's given over everything that truly matters, right? An army, you know, they run on their belly. Not literally, but figuratively. Well, the sustenance to keep them going, it's inevitable that they're going to fall flat. Weirdly enough, that the food for their belly in this situation isn't actually food, it's gold. Especially when you need crossbows like this. I mean, he can't ever stop building crossbows. Oh, man, that's painful to see. He's going into hand cannons. This is unsustainable. I am severely worried for what his plan is with this play. Because you don't have the gold to reboom the lost hand cannoneers, right? So, you know, crossbows are kind of holding you for a moment. I get that you need something stronger, but I mean, these hand cannons will just get sniped by bombards. I don't think he has a quantifiable mass to justify this play. And if he misplays on his position at all, like a few lanks will just clean everything. Beastie, man. It's just... It's one of those games where I think if Numudan could see how stretched this is, like he probably feels like it's over already, right? We already mentioned that we can see everything and he can't. And every time he just gets clashes like this, it's once again, it's BC just doing what he loves, right? Lulling you into a false sense of security while he gets everything everywhere else. Bombards are at least going to be taken out. The CG QE is offline for the moment. But Greedy QE is everywhere. Gold being taken on both flanks. Wall after wall. We're just creating an impenetrable fortress here. He's even getting more keeps. So you have to start wondering, like, what is the win condition for Numudan? I think he could try to play Horseman. Like, this choke point's created, but there's still openings, right? Like, BC hasn't fully secured himself. Problem is he's still not got elite Horsemen, right? He's not got elite crossbows either. Like, there's so many issues for Numudan that come back to gold. I mean, how long have we been in Imperial Age? Like, it's been at least 2-3 minutes from now, right? He gets a substantial amount of gold banked on the side, but it's just like he now knows that when it's gone for good. And he feels like he probably needs Siege. Siege is just not working out for him. Horseman raid on the south side. Numudan looks a bit exposed. You know, when he goes this hard into a static comp, you forfeit control, right? You can control one fight in one location, but the map is what you need to be controlling here. And with only 8 horsemen to your name, you simply can't do that. You finally discovered the bad news. Beastie Cutie. We call him Siegey Cutie sometimes. The irony of how much siege you will need against him now. Outposts, keeps everywhere. Numudan, the only play he has left is this dance in the center, and oh man, Beastie's coming in for the jugular. Check out that comp. Oh my god. Was that 8 to 24 Langsk? How many Raxes has he got? It's quite a lot, right? He's up at 17 racks right now. And here's the problem you now have with your Numudan. By the time you see this play coming, you can't run away from it. Right? Because look at the lack of YAM. He never restructured the YAM network. And if he takes this fight, the backstab could just instant slap him out. I mean, you see it. There's a bunch of Lanks waiting here. There's more to the north. It's a perfect pinch waiting to happen. Numudan. When in Imperial Age, like whether you're in Dark Age, Feudal Age, Castle Age, Imperial Age, Rams are always true, right? Did he even get the upgrades? It looks like he did. So there's at least that going his way. It's like a couple of assists. Like it's pop cap you can't afford to even have on anything but actual units to fight. That's the sad part. Like it feels grim to say because this is just 6 pop cap. But it's like Numudan's gonna need everything he's got and more. And the line formation's up. The surround. Beastie. It's like a pack of sharks and they found a victim in the water. And Numudan is about to drown to the Zweihanders. In with the backstab on every front. Numudan not only losing military, but losing everything. What a play out of BC to end the game.